And good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, the 27th. Where has October gone? Veronica Michael, my co-host, will be joining us in just a minute. She's saying goodbye on a telephone call, and she'll be with us today. And wow, I'm sure you've all been outside this morning. What a change in the weather. I mean, it was just snappy cold this morning. I think it's that brisk south wind. But they have promised us, it is going to be a much more wonderful, wonderful time. I'm just watching here to see if there's any messages coming in as we go across the timeline here. They have promised us that Halloween is actually going to be really quite a nice day. And that's going to be very, very unusual. I mean, I remember snowstorms in Halloween. I remember just miserable cold and wind, and there was no point in putting those, face masks that kids got on, because if the wind got behind it, it would snap that rubber band in about 2 seconds. So you'd be like holding it on your face as you went up to the door, and that was a worthless time. I happened to be flying in the morning after, so November 1st, 1991, was flying into Minneapolis, and I must have had an overnight there, because I would have been ending up here in the Grand Forks area. But I was picked up by a cousin and her husband, and it was after that huge snowstorm. That's a record snowstorm for Halloween down in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And it was unbelievable. There was snow, beautiful white snow. It wasn't that cold, and it was a beautiful day the day after. But there was snow piled up as high as those big loaders could absolutely make it everywhere. I never even thought about it as I was flying in, but there it was. I mean, there was snow everywhere. It was an absolutely white Christmas type of snow that hit us in that year. And it was just a shock to my system. There's no other way to describe it. It was beyond, just beyond belief, the snow that we got that year. I don't remember how the rest of the year went. I was in Tennessee from 90 to 94. I was in Tennessee. So I'd flown up from BNA, that's the airport in Nashville, into Minneapolis. And I just know that I was picked up and spent some time with my cousins. Now, I don't know if I got on a way later flight that day up here or if I spent the night. I have no recollection of that, but I do recollect driving on 494 West after they picked me up. And not all the lanes were open, and it was just a mess, a real mess. And that was, of course, the great storm of 91, Halloween storm of 91. Going back some years, it must have been 60, graduated in 69, 66, 65, 66, in more toward the spring when the Minnesota Farmers Union Convention was on, because it was after the Crookston Red River Valley Winter Shows. Because from the Crookston Red River Valley Winter Shows, they had a contest, and I won 50 chickens, little chicks. We had them down in our basement. And my parents were gone with other couples to the Minnesota Farmers Union Convention down in Minneapolis. That was in St. Paul, actually. And we had another older cousin here with us at the farm, my sister and I. And I don't think we lost power, but of course there was no school for about 3 days. And that was one of those gale, blizzard, spring storms where the snow was wet and in mass quantities. And that came through. And that was unbelievable. But the big remembrance there, of course, is that we had the chickens down in the basement. And that was quite an event. And that we were not home alone, because, I mean, obviously we were here, and just 300 feet across the road would have been my uncle Ernest and his family. So we were not stuck in any way. But that was an incredible spring storm, along with others. 97, of course, the last plane that flew in. I had one of my foreign exchange students who was returning to go to college at the University of Minnesota, he was on the last plane that flew in, my cousin Paul, and I drove over in a big 4-wheel drive pickup, one of those big Dodge Ram pickups, picked him up, and it took us forever to get home. We got we didn't come the short way to the farm. We went around on what's called the high grade, feeling that would do us better. We got around to within a half a mile of the house, and we hit 5-foot snow drifts. The pickup could not handle that. Paul had a snowmobile suit with him, so he put that on, walked to his farm, got the big rear snowblower tractor out, and then took that, blew down the road to the pickup. But of course, the pickup was at this time now up on 3-4 feet of snow. So we basically kind of pulled the pickup off. He came literally right up to the front bumper of the pickup with the twirling blades, pulled the pickup off of that, got in the yard, and then nothing happened off of that. That was A, B, C, D, E, F. Was it G? They were naming the snowstorms that year, if you remember. That's what caused the big flood, and that was the last one. So was it the name G or H? I'm not sure. I think there was 7 that year, and I believe that was the G snowstorm. Unbelievable. Anyway, well, Veronica is taking her time here getting to the green room, but you know what they say, business comes first. And so we respect that. Today we were going to just kind of go back in the Wayback Machine and talk about our roots and our beginning, and also different products that are available and how you can use them. We haven't done product or the end result for the hemp that's being grown here in the Minnesota, North Dakota area, and how it's ended up in the marketplace. As you can see on the picture behind me here, this is industrial hemp. And for those of you that are new to the show, of course, industrial hemp has one stalk, and it can grow. This is probably 5 or 6 foot tall. This is a generic picture that I have in a photo group that I'm in, where we can use any photography that's in it. But this is industrial hemp. You'll see there are some that are really, really high back there. So this probably has a little diversity in the gene pool that's in this hemp. It's not really, really tightly universal seed. But this industrial hemp like this with a single stalk can grow to 14 to 16 feet high. Of course, really, really desirable if you're going for what I call the satin, the part around the stalk, the bark, if you will. That's used to make paper, blue jeans, and those kind of products. And you're hearing this all beeping here. That's why I keep looking for if there's messages coming in, because Veronica was promised to be here by this time. That's all right. But of course, with that has to get removed from the inner stem, which is called the hurd. That has a different use. And up in Canada, they have now some machines that are pretty cool. They are not moving machines that go down the field. This is a machine in a building. It's a fixed place machine. But basically, you would take what you see here behind me and bale it. You take it all. You don't go through with the combine and take the heads off and take the seeds out of the heads and try and capture any of the CBD type of flower tops. You take it all. You absolutely take all of it and you bale it. And then from the baling, you take that in, and this machine can take a 2-ton round hay bale like you see out in the field. It can take that entire hay bale, and it takes it apart, first of all. It has fingers that just unbale it and take it just like you'd be taking it off of a swath of grain in the field. And from that swath, it starts taking it apart into its elements. And in the magic of the machine, and I have not, because of our inability to get to Canada, I have a plan to get up there and see 2 different manufacturers of this machine. But within that machine, somewhere from the beginning to the end, alpha to the omega, at the end of the machine, there are 4 streams. One stream is the seeds. It takes of course, this industrial hemp has lots of seeds in it. because it was out in the field and you didn't go in and remove any of the male plants. So it has pollinated itself and it has made seeds. And of course, those seeds are a stream that we will get back to, and we can talk about their use in a little bit. But it has a lot of seeds. And then depending on the strain of it, it may have a certain amount of CBD and all of the other CBs and all of the other pharmaceutical products. That becomes stream number 2. So we have a hemp seed stream. We have the pharmaceutical head of the plant, the what's the flower part, some of the leaves, and all of the things that you can extract, all of the chemicals that really kind of got the hemp movement going again in the United States back in 2014. And then the law changes and everything that has brought us to this very day here in 2020. Then the third stream is the silk. That's the part that comes off. So in that magic machine somewhere is a decorticator that can take the long stalks and take the bark off of them. And because that's different than what's inside. And that will end up in a stream that would go to a paper mill or a clothing, the first stages of a clothing manufacturer, no different than sheep's wool or anything else like that, where it starts getting processed with little fingers that go back and forth like this and start putting it out into threads. And then those threads would get put on a loom. I might not have just, I might be one off in my descriptions, but that would start rolling it into multiple threads, no different than a piece of wool on your wool sock. And however fine that was or however thick that was is going to determine if your blue jeans are soft or your cloth. I say blue jeans. I didn't bring my wallet. I have a hemp wallet that's made from, well, it almost looks like a sock. You know how big the threads are on a wool sock. Each of the fibers are almost that big. So you can see the interlay of the fibers on the wallet. And it's more than 20 years old. I'm trying to think when I got it. I got it up in Winnipeg. A cousin of mine, my traveling buddy, and I went up there. And in the mall that's at the Forks, which is at where the Assiniboine River and the Red River of the North combine, which has been a historical trading site back before Winnipeg was Winnipeg. It was where the Native American tribes, the indigenous peoples would meet. I guess it was just an easy way to say, hey, let's meet where the rivers meet. And so it is long known as the Forks, or they have the French word for it, forge. And then, of course, as Winnipeg became a place, the paddle boats could get there because they could go up the Assiniboine River, much shallower, but a place to lay up, as opposed to being on the Red River, which was the traffic lane. And then from that became the trading post, and some of that building is still there. Matter of fact, they've modified it into a really, really nice building for what it is. And with that, of course, now it's a very commercial touristy place. 1 second, my throat is bothered by this extremely cold weather outside. And so from there, and yes, you'll hear a cat running around here. He was out in this extreme cold this morning and was not happy about it. So I let him in to warm up just a little bit. And so from there, anyway, they have more than 20 years ago up in Canada, they had a big selection, about a t-shirt, and I wore that out. I mean, and when I say wore it out, I used it into 2015. I wore it often for 15 years. Hemp. So I was hooked on hemp as a fiber product since the 90s. And my wallet has traveled the world. It has been to the Middle East. It has been to Eastern Europe, Western Europe, an uncountable amount of times. It has crossed the Atlantic. And fortunately, I never had it stolen and I never lost it. But it has been all over North America. It's been all over our fields. And again, the fact that it didn't fall out of my pocket more than enough times that I found it every time. But it's been dirty and it's been oily and it's been, and it just now in 22, 23 years, it is starting to show some wear finally. And that just happened literally in the last year or so. It's just an amazing thing. Enough talking about that. But that's where the third channel that's coming off the magic machine is. Then the fourth channel, of course, is what we call HURD, H-U-R-D. And that's our play on words. I'm just going to throw the thing up here. You see, on Wednesdays, we do Have You Heard? Mondays and Wednesdays, actually. And just a play on words. But the hurd is the pulp, the inside of the stalk. And if you have seen a sunflower stalk, it's much the same. It is that, I don't want to say, yeah, chalky kind of porous. It was there to support the plant, where the bark area is where the energy goes up and the exchange of fluids happens. But the inside is the stalk, and it's on the industrial hemp. Imagine it can hold that plant up 16 feet tall in the windstorms that come through, because hemp is a worldwide plant. I mean, it grows in dry conditions with big winds. It grows in somewhat wet conditions with no winds, but it can hold that plant up there in all sorts of conditions. And that's what it's over time has evolved to be able to do very, very well. And of course, now we are starting to manipulate it to do it even better. But that hurd inside, when dried, has burnable energy in it, and it can be used for that. Matter of fact, if you compress it into little pellets the size of corn pellets, it actually has more energy per pellet than corn does in a corn burning stove. So that's one use for it. You can also capture that, slice it up sort of, and then press it into a wood. There is a site on the internet that's making hemp wood, and you can buy a kit to make a table. You can buy a 40-inch table or like a conference table. And I got to get my hands on one of those when we have space for a conference table. Unfortunately, I'd have to throw out the one I have, but it's absolutely a gorgeous wood. And I would say that, well, if you put a red stain on it, it would look like mahogany. It's just an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous wood. But with a brown stain on it, well, it looks like mahogany that you stain brown. I just always in my mind, mahogany is got kind of a red tint to it. But you know how mahogany has those lines in it, as opposed to walnut, cherry, oak, beech, any of the other woods. You can tell across the room when you look at mahogany, or at least I can. I learned that back in 8th grade shop class. And ironically, my shop class teacher's name was Mr. Wood. What are the odds of that? What are the odds of that? And he was at the end of his teaching career in the early 60s, so mid 60s. So he passed on long, long time ago. But my 6th grade teacher was his wife, Mrs. Wood. So I went from Mrs. Wood in 6th grade to getting him in 8th and then again 10th grade. Mr. Wood, QC Wood. Anyway, so mahogany, nice wood to work with, and hemp made into wood works pretty much just like mahogany. And it gives, when it's finished right, it has just a beautiful finish on it. It's as durable or more durable than any of the hardest of woods like oak. And there's certainly going to be a future in that, because you can raise it in a year. Walnut tree is what? 80 to 100 years before you can chop that tree down. So if you planted 80 acres of walnut, you can do that for your grandchildren. But hemp, you can raise, if you're doing a crop rotation, well, on 80 acres, if you even did it every 4 years, you would get 20 harvests of hemp off of that 80 acres in 80 years. Pretty amazing, huh? Pretty amazing. So obviously for the environment, for carbon footprints, blah, 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 blah. I'm an environmentalist, but I'm not an environmentalist that can sit and preach on it, if that makes sense. So just it's good for these things, and away you go. So we have this wonderful product that can make these things. We have this wonderful machine that can do these 4 streams, because that's what you want. Because somebody that wants hemp seeds doesn't want the other 3. Somebody that wants the silk, the bark, doesn't want the other 3. Somebody and the herd, of course, can be used for a whole bunch of other things yet. We haven't touched on that. It can be used for animal bedding. It can be used for to make hempcrete, which is a badly named word, because when you hear hempcrete, you think concrete. And the only thing that they have in common is the fact that they use lye to set it. The same thing that you use in concrete to set gravel, which makes concrete, like stone. The lye does not make hempcrete like stone. You can't make I guess you could make your driveway out of it, but you will not be driving anything heavy at all on it. It'll make incredible walls for your house, but you need to have framing within the walls. I have not yet seen one where it is its own framing. You make the frame, and then you fill in with hempcrete, and you have a beautiful, you can plaster the outside, you can paint the inside, you can leave it raw in some places where you want, because even if you do put surfaces on it, where it's open, it's going to start sequestering carbon, and it's going to start sequestering means absorbing, sucking in carbon. And it's going to do that for 100 years. So it's an awesome product in that respect. And along with that, it's going to breathe a little bit. If your house is too moist, it's going to breathe in moisture. If your house gets dry, it's going to release moisture. So it's kind of a capacitor. And for some reason, it likes human beings. It seems to give us what we want. So it's like hemp, the friendly product. As a marketing guy, it's just real easy to come up with sell lines and jingles and little things for hemp, because there's just always something you can say and do about it that are fun. They're little twists, like Have You Heard? Well, we are significantly through our show today, and we were unable to get joined by Veronica, and those things happen, and it's not a problem at all. Tomorrow we will have You Heard? Some news stories, and get through this bitterly cold day out there. Of course, on the one hand, if it's only this cold on some days in the winter, I'm going to be on the show saying, wow, what a beautiful winter day it is. But, I walked across in a vest, a nice down vest, but I'm telling you, having a little exposed skin today was not a wonderful thing at all. But we have put the fields to bed. I did get driving. Actually, I drove as far as Fargo yesterday, and then up through Grand Forks and back to drop off some papers and things. And didn't get a chance to get in anywhere, but handed some papers to the window and said hi to some people, and got out and got to see the territory. And it was really, really wonderful. And as part of doing that, you just literally, there was some corn going down Highway 75 closer to Moorhead. There was a whole bunch of corn sitting there in the field yet. But other than that, coming back on 29 rather. I mixed it with 94. On 29, it looks like the fields are pretty much put to bed for the winter. And we hope that you all had a safe and sane and all okay harvest. Tomorrow, hope Veronica's with us. Hope she can be here. Things happen. That's fine. And we will bid you adieu. Take care of your pets and your animals, and let's get through this hunkering down process here. Dr. Fauci said that this is still wave 1. We have a week to go. If you are voting from home, it's time to get your ballots done, get them in the mail, drop them off at the post office direct if you feel that's a better way. whatever it takes to get your vote counted. This year, I think more than any other time, it's important that every vote for national, state, regional, every vote counts. However it is that you choose to vote, let's get them all counted. Let's see what all the people have to say about this election. And by next Wednesday, hopefully, we will know what the outcome is and have a direction for our country and our future, whatever the people should decide that is. So I will bid you adieu. Join us again tomorrow. We'll be doing this. It's going to be fun. Monday through Thursday, we do this every day. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, on YouTube. Click the subscribe button. Please, please click the subscribe button. And also hit the little bell, and we will announce to you whenever we are going live.